The Martin TV show made me a colorist. Maybe. Recently, singer Ari Lenox went viral for her comments about how Martin portrayed the character Pam on the show. This did what any opinion does. It divided the internet in two. Now here's the audio of what Ari said.
The thing that pissed me off about Martin was how much he would go on Pam. Like, I know, like, and this is coming from a girl who I love me a good, like, joking ass movie, and it even when the joking movie is like, damn, like, that was fucked up, like, I'm not like too woke or something is what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm honestly not, I'm problematic. I'm pretty problematic, low key, but my point is that there are some things where I draw the line and it just bothered me, or like, I don't know, it's like Pam was so fucking beautiful and so fine, and I just feel like growing up as a chocolate girl, like, I don't even know if I was able to understand the greatness of Pam because of the light that I feel like I was being fed. You know what I'm saying? Like, of just like always going on Pam, always, like, that's all I remember. And I didn't like that. But like, so I feel conflicted because while I feel like this show is incredible, and I feel like Martin is a legendary show, and all of the actors and Tommy and like everybody, like, legendary, amazing. Like, I adore them all. Like, you have no idea. And I adore Martin. Like, I adore him. It just would piss me off, like the joking on Pam. I just didn't like that, Like, I'll always kind of feel a way about that.
This video is going to acknowledge what Ari said, but I do want to start by saying, if someone is honest about their experience and how that experience impacted them, why do we feel the need to be experts and say, no, you're wrong? If someone uses their life experience to come to a conclusion, there is a level of empathy we have to employ. We don't have to shout out our differences at each other. This Twitter user said it best. The Martin insults towards Pam obviously triggered some of our sisters. So instead of defending the content or explaining it away, just allow them to have their opinions and feelings. Nobody telling you to stop watching a show or finding it funny. You have free will. Now, you do have free will. This ongoing debate reminds me of the idea of intentional fallacy, which is the fallacy of basing an assessment of a work on the author's intention rather than the one's response to the actual work. A good example of intentional fallacy is Leonardo da Vinci's intent for his painting Mona Lisa. Now, there's a lot of debate on whether or not da Vinci intended for the woman in the painting to appear smiling. Even deeper is the debate over what kind of smile the woman in the painting is doing. Some think it's a sly or mysterious smile, some think it's a scornful smile, and there are even more interpretations beyond these. The idea of intentional fallacy brings up the question of art's impact versus intent. When it comes to the Mona Lisa, we'll never even know if she was supposed to smile, and the different opinions on her smile show us that individuals can look at the same thing and walk away with opposing experiences. Now, look at what Martin was. At the time, Martin was a sitcom that was considered groundbreaking. The characters were diverse, the show leaned on physical comedy in a way that wasn't prevalent in black shows at the time, and it also had the ability to tap into hip-hop culture in unique ways as well, having guest appearances from Biggie and Kid and Play. Now, all of this resulted in a show that years later can still be referenced and appreciated. I understand why, when Ari tells us her perspective on the show, people were up in arms. For example, I would not stand for any Martin slander. Easily the best show of all time. Pam dished it out as well. It was a sign of the times. How this scares you 30 years later means stay in therapy, because I watch it nightly. Now, despite many people disagreeing, there are others pointing out the bigger conversation that needs to be had. Colorism in media. The colorism convo I'm seeing tells me that many of you can't identify the harms or undertones in jokes, and what's being implied if it isn't said blatantly. Martin comparing Pam to animals and calling her nappy-headed as the brown-skinned woman on the show is rooted in a long history. Now, when you do see dark-skinned characters in desirable roles, if they're in there at all, it is black men and boys. This further pushes the idea that darker skin is equated to masculinity and lighter skin to femininity, whether we want to acknowledge this or not. Even the shows that are celebrated for including black characters, a lot of them still cling to colorism, and their stars benefit from light skin privilege that consumers yearn for. For dark-skinned black women and girls, The characters who look like them on TV are either non-existent or in just these perpetual harmful narratives that hurt them in real life too. Right now today there is an interracial wage gap where darker skinned black women make less money than light skinned black women. Dark skinned black girls are 3 times more likely to be suspended from school in comparison to their lighter counterparts. The darker your skin, the more likely you are to go to prison, and dark-skinned black women even face higher rates of unemployment. Colorism is real and has real impact. So to easily dismiss someone categorizing an experience as colorism seems a little harsh, especially in defense of a sitcom from 30 years ago. We talked about colorism and we talked about the difference between intention and impact in art. But Tashina Arnold, the person who played Pam, has addressed these concerns in an interview.
There's been a suggestion that there's a sort of light skin versus dark skin sort of dynamic between the way Martin treats Gina and the way he treats Pam.
Be the hat. Yo, Pam, you should be the dog as usual.
Have you ever considered that, or do you look at that and just in the way that like the things he calls you sometimes in character?
You know why I never considered that? Because originally the role was all fat jokes, like I told you, it was written, you know, which is not better.
Yeah.
But we as a culture go through that, and I never was insulted by it because, first of all, it's my job to be able to bring life to this role, and how do I keep a certain, because there were things that were written towards Pam, and Martin would say, absolutely not, I'm not saying that. So there are fights that happen off camera that a lot of people don't know about. I would say no to your question only because what Martin and I had was really organic. So wherever that comes from is because of us personally and not because of what we really saw in each other.
Hearing her talk about it and seeing tweets like this, conveniently leaving out how Pam always held her own, is crazy. Ari Lenox saw herself in Martin's joke. She couldn't see herself in fly, quick-witted, ambitious, independent Pam, and that's something she needs to talk to her therapist about. Both the interview and the tweet only make my point a little clearer. No matter what Ari Lenox seen when she looked at Pam, we should be handling it with grace. Being so caught up in our own experiences and nostalgia shouldn't cause us to throw empathy out the window. Also, Martin isn't dropping new episodes anytime soon. It's okay to let it go.
Okay guys, I'm gonna do a tornado siren once again.